Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patithanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Thank you, Brajvilas Prabhu. The temple of Vedic Planetarium was and is and will be one of our beloved spiritual masters' very cherished dreams, desires, and instruction. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he dedicated his whole life to spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout the world. Just a few minutes ago, I was speaking with His Grace Burijan Prabhu. Let us welcome him to our yatra by loudly chanting Hari. He was telling me that he was, along with his good wife, Jagatarini Devi, in the Philippines with Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, with great emotion, he spoke of his wish to make the whole world Krishna conscious. And he asked Burijan Prabhu, Jagatarini Devi, and all of his disciples and all of his followers to help him. Such an honor. And we could make spiritual advancement and feel a true spiritual, personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada and our gurus according to how we take his instructions personally, even if they were not given to us in physical proximity, even if they were given to us many years later. Srila Prabhupada was speaking to all of us. And if we take this seriously and are willing to devote ourselves, as he did, to the order of his guru, following his footsteps, that's where we'll really find a true personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada, our gurus, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Radha Govinda. And one of Srila Prabhupada's very important dreams to fulfill that mission was the building of the Temple Vedic Planetarium. Srila Prabhupada desired book distribution, and devotees took seriously, and hundreds and millions of his books have been published and distributed. Srila Prabhupada wanted temples and community. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of temples and communities all over the world. Navadvip is none different than Vrindavan. Radha Bhavaduti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Surupam. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, who has come to experience and to share with the world the Mahabhav of Srimati Radharani through the Harinam Sankirtan movement. He established the Harinam Sankirtan movement in Mayapur town. And Vrindavan Das Thakur, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, all of our acharyas declare that Vrindavan and Navadvip are non-different, except Navadvip and the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are more accessible to the fallen people of Kali. Srila Prabhupada bought a little paddy field in Mayapur, and there he lived in a little straw hut. But he had this vision of the temple of Vedic Planetarium. He had a vision even at that time, and he shared it with all of his leaders and asked us to do this. And he had great confidence and faith that all of us would. He came to America with some little boxes of Indian printed books and asked us, and hundreds and millions, almost billions of books have been distributed. He strived for over a year and ultimately got a little tiny storefront in a very run-down, dangerous neighborhood of New York. And now there's 18 temples in New Delhi. I think there's 6 or 7 in Mumbai. There's temples all over the world. This Temple of Vedic Planetarium was Prabhupada's vision, beyond any of our creative imagination, to attract the world to the mercy and the teachings of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, and truly open the doors to the pure love of Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada asked all of us, but he very specifically requested Ambarish Prabhu to oversee that it would be done. That instruction was given almost 50 years ago. And Ambarish Prabhu and his good wife, Swaha Devi, they are still making that instruction their life and soul. But it wasn't just an instruction to him, it was instruction to all of us. But he's an example of how all of us, if we cooperate for this higher principle, Krishna will miraculously empower us to do it. Raj Vilas Prabhu has been traveling the world. Janani Vas Prabhu, who I believe every one of us knows and loves dearly. He's been, I believe, from 1994. He has been, to this day, he is the head pujari of Radha Gopinath Temple in Chowpatty. And we're all following his guidance with his blessings. After the loss of his twin brother and very ill health, he could hardly do anything physically. But knowing how important building this temple was to Srila Prabhupada, he's traveled around the whole world several times, trying to inspire people to help. So please, devotional services for the pleasure of Krishna, the willingness to prioritize and even endure hardships and do more than what is comfortable. So this is a wonderful opportunity. And like in so many of the Leelas of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, Krishna puts us in a situation where he urgently needs our help. It's actually mercy. So we could put our heart and soul. So please, everyone, let us do the best we possibly can. Raj Vilas Prabhu, are you happy? Would you like to speak something else? I don't think you need a microphone. And please, from our heart of hearts, let us all pray to Shri Radha Shama Sundar, to Shri Giriraj Govardhan, that if it is their will to please restore our beloved Ambarish Prabhu's health, let us take a moment in prayer. Thank you very much. Jaya Radha Kunja Bihaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Bihari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Jnantimidandasya Jnananjanachala Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam yena bhutale Swayam rupa kadamayam Tisva padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Judha Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajata Sahakana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahakana Lalita Sri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Rangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Anamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Ananti Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Thank you for so graciously, patiently, and blissfully surviving. I am truly grateful to everyone who has come for Yatra. When Indra showered that massive, devastating rainstorm upon the residents of Vrindavan, by all material calculations, it was utterly helpless. Within the world today, we have some countries with massive armies, nuclear weapons, so much power to destroy. But actually, all of this is insignificant compared to the powers, the weapons, the facility of Indra's. And he aimed the powers that destroy the universe, concentrated on the form of the village of Vrindavan. What is the hope? That all the Brijabasis, ordinarily, he was their little child that needed to be protected and fed. And then Yashoda would bathe him every day. Yashoda Mai would dress him. He was child. And his friends, the Gopas, when they would go out in the pastures, they simply had fun. Krishna gave them happiness and fun, and they gave Krishna happiness and fun. Ever increasingly, that was the eternal reality of their lives. Nobody was thinking he's the almighty God that we are completely dependent on. The residents of Vrindavan not only already knew that, but they already fully realized it. When we hear about the pastimes of Vrindavan, with their playfulness and with their sweetness, we do need to understand that those who are participating with Sri Radharani and Sri Krishna, they are in the ultimate stage beyond renunciation of any selfish pleasures or any material conceptions. They are fully realized in the supremacy of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, beyond the all-pervading Brahman, beyond even Vaikuntha. But their love for Krishna is so deep that Krishna reveals a sweetness of love to them through his beauty, through his pastimes with his devotees, through his love, through the sweet song of his flute, that the fact that he's the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, the source of all incarnations, is insignificant in comparison to his being Gopal, Krishna, Gopinath, Radharaman, Govinda. And when such dangers come, Krishna is their only shelter. But even in taking shelter for Krishna as the only protection for their lives, their property, their loved ones, everything, even that cannot compromise the intimate sweetness of their love for Krishna as their friend, their child, and their lover. So here is Indra sending the Samvartaka, the clouds of devastation. When these clouds come, you can't shoot guns at it. You can't send a nuclear bomb up to the cloud and think it's going to dissipate it. There's no power on this earth planet that can possibly resist it or counteract it. We could destroy a little part of this earth. The clouds of devastation, they create deluge which floods the universe. And with Indra told Samvartaka clouds, with all of your fullest power and strength, you go to Vrindavan and destroy it. And he's a devotee. And so many devotees honor him as their senior. So the Brajavasis, they came to Krishna. And we learn from the great knowers of the science of bhakti that they were not just coming to protect their own lives. Their life was for Krishna's pleasure. They were protecting their life so that Krishna would be happy. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami tells when the gopis would put on cosmetics and beautiful jewelry and clothes, they weren't trying to attract people to themselves. It made Krishna happy. They were beautiful for Krishna. And when Krishna would see their beauty, he would become more beautiful for them. And when he would become more beautiful for them, they would become more beautiful for Krishna. And we could continue for the rest of the yatra, this sentence. But that's an eternal, ever-expanding reality. In the spiritual world, nothing about Krishna is stagnant. It's ever-increasing. His beauty is ever-increasing because he's inspired by his devotees. And he empowers devotees to be beautiful. And then through his beauty, he inspires more beauty. His love attracts his devotees so infinitely. But in Goloka, infinity is always increasing. How can you have more than infinity? At every moment, infinity is growing. That is God. Srila Prabhupada would tell us that people all over the world know that God is great. But how is God great? Yes, he creates. Yes, he maintains. Yes, he destroys. Yes, he rewards. And yes, he punishes. Yes, no one is equal to or greater. But as Krishna in Vrindavan, the ultimate expression of God's greatness, God reveals to the world, reveals to his devotees' hearts. So this massive storm, which is a hopeless situation, they turned to Krishna. And Krishna smiled. He said, "Don't be afraid, come with me." And he lifted the Govardhan hill. And he made the greatest tragedy into the most blissful festival for 7 days and 7 nights. And what did he do? He was just standing on the same rock. I don't think any literature has described that his feet even moved. He was in this Tribhanga threefold form, standing in the same place, 7 days, 7 nights, and yet the limitless cows and limitless gopas and gopis and brahmins and all other animals and birds and vegetations and every living being, he was personally, intimately, lovingly reciprocating with them uniquely. Narada Muni, when he went to the 16,108 palaces of Krishna in Dwarka, he was amazed because Krishna was in each and every palace. And Narada Muni has really been around and seen everything. And he's seen yogis who can expand themselves to be in many places but they're all doing the same thing. You ever met anyone like that? But Krishna, he was personally reciprocating with each of his wives, with his queens, each of his children, each of his friends, each of his ministers in a completely different way, simultaneously. And actually the opulence of Vrindavan, infused with supreme sweetness, is far greater than even Dwarka, Mathura, or Vaikuntha. During the Brahma Vimohan Lila, there were so many calves, Ashanka, limitless calves. And when Brahma took them all, he was thinking he's very great. Krishna became every calf, and he became every cowherd boy for 1 year. And every cow, a cow knows her calf like nobody else could know. The subtlest, most refined features of that calf, sometimes only the mother knows. You can't fool a mother cow by disguising as somebody else's calf, because she knows everything. What you like, what you don't like, what sounds you make, everything. Every hair on your body. The only difference the cow is feeling, this is my child. The only difference is, why do I love this child more than ever before? Mysteriously, I love this child as much as I love Krishna. But they never thought that it's Krishna. And every cowherd boy, their mothers, their fathers, their friends, and incredibly, even each other. But Krishna wants to put on a display of sweet, loving pastimes. It's impossible for the human mind to go deep enough to understand the subtle intimacies. Each cowherd boy is playing with each other cowherd boy, and they're all Krishna, but yet Krishna's so absorbed in being that boy that even they don't detect each other. That is Krishna. So here under Govardhan Hill for those 7 days and 7 nights, without moving anything except he stood like this, Giridhari. His eyes would glance and his lips would smile. That he was standing there, and yet through his glance and through his smile, and occasionally he would lift his flute and play within the innermost core of the heart and permeating the entire mind and body of every one of those residents of Vrindavan of all species. Krishna was intimately, uniquely responding to their own natural love and totally flooding them. Krishna's glance upon a single Brijavasi or single cow was more inundating to that person than the Sambataka clouds that were pouring from the sky. But it flooded them with happiness. And it is described like that by our beloved acharyas, that there was a storm on top of the hill, but there was an even greater storm underneath the hill. The flood of Krishna's glances filling the hearts, the minds, the lives of every devotee. And after Indra was defeated, when he saw 7 days of the mightiest winds, the mightiest rains, he could not separate a single leaf from a single tree. He couldn't bend a single blade of grass. He couldn't cause any distress to anyone. Everyone was happy, happier than ever. He was humbled, and he realized who Krishna was. By Krishna's grace, Krishna revealed himself. And yesterday, on the celebration of Govardhan Puja, it was described how Brihaspati, his guru, and Brahma, the original guru, they felt helpless to help Indra to atone for his sins. Go to someone who loves Krishna and who Krishna loves. And he approached Mother Cow Sarabhi. And on the Ekadasi day, Sarabhi appealed to Krishna to give forgiveness and accept the surrender and give shelter to Indra. Now I'm going to tell a story that happened the next day. And years ago, my very esteemed, worshipable, loving God brother, Burijan Prabhu, told me this story. And he told it in such a way it thrilled my heart. And so I'm going to try to share the same story with you today. Nanda Maharaj fasted and observed Ekadasi. The next morning, Nanda Maharaj gathered a group of cowherd men to go to the Yamuna, very, very late night, early morning. And in the darkness, they were going to take their bath. In that darkness, Nanda Maharaj entered Yamuna. Suddenly, he disappeared. He was nowhere to be seen. We go down in the river and then we come up within a few seconds. He went down and never came up. What happened? One of the messengers of Varuna, who is the demigod of the oceans, he misconceived that Nanda Maharaj had committed offense. He was bathing on the Dwadasi morning at an inauspicious time, and therefore he needed to be punished. He arrested underwater Nanda Maharaj and escorted him to Varuna's underwater palace. When Varuna saw that his messenger brought Nanda Maharaj, he was very upset, but he was simultaneously quite happy. He was upset because Nanda Maharaj was faultless. He is the father of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Lord Narayan in his highest, most intimate, loving feature of Krishna, the source of all avatars. Nanda Maharaj, not just in this world, but he's eternally Krishna's father in the spiritual world. He's most exalted. His love for Krishna, Krishna's love for him. And you foolish messenger, you arrested him? You took him away from his family? So Nanda Maharaj, he honored and respected Varuna. He honored and respected Nanda Maharaj in such a way. He gave him a throne in his palace that was far more opulent and beautiful than his own throne. He offered prayers to Nanda Maharaj, garlands, artis, worship. He begged forgiveness that my messenger is a very foolish man, but Krishna will come for you. So that was going on deep down in the sea. Meanwhile, in Vrindavan, on bank of Yamuna, it's still very pitch dark. And the cowherd men, they couldn't find Nanda Maharaj. He went in the river, disappeared, never came back. They were frantic with anxiety. They were confused. The cowherd men had to find Nanda Maharaj. He's their life and soul. He's Krishna's father. They jumped in the Yamuna and they dove as deep as they could possibly swim, trying to find Nanda Maharaj. They went deeper and deeper. They came out, they dove in again, and they went deeper and deeper. They couldn't find him anywhere. Finally, they all came back to the bank, and they were searching all around the bank and all around the forest and the bank. They couldn't find Nanda Maharaj anywhere. And ultimately, in a helpless condition, they cried out from the core of their hearts, "Oh Krishna, oh Rama." It was still very early morning. Krishna was sleeping in Nandagram at his home of Nanda Bhavan. And when he heard his holy names being called with such feeling, Krishna woke up. He jumped out of bed and he went running to find his father. And Yashoda Mai heard it also. She came running with him. And all the Brijabasis of Nandagram and all the Brijabasis from all around, they all came running to this scene. Where is Nanda Maharaj? This was panic. When they arrived on bank of Jamuna, everyone was searching, everyone was looking, no one saw anything. There was no trace, there was no clue. Krishna called out to everyone, "I will go and find him." Then Gopal, who's 7 years old, he dove into the Yamuna and he didn't come out. They were all waiting for Krishna to come out. He didn't. First Nanda Maharaj is lost, and now Krishna is lost. Yashoda Mai, her husband Nanda, he vanished, and now Krishna's vanished. In a pathetic state, she cried. Her heart was utterly shattered. She fainted and then collapsed to the ground. There was no sign of life. The Brijabasis, Nanda Maharaj is vanished. Krishna's disappeared. Now we don't know if Yashoda's alive. And when the gopis saw all this happening, when they saw Krishna dive into Jamuna River and not come out, they couldn't speak, they couldn't hear, they couldn't even see. They just cried and cried and cried. And Jiva Goswami and Gopal Champu, he describes how Srimati Radharani, seeing Krishna disappear in the water of the river, her body, her mind shriveled, and practically in front of everyone was withering away. She cried. She fell to the ground. It is explained in this way. It was as if the universal fire of destruction that destroys the universe was burning in her heart. Her heart actually followed Krishna into the water. The fibers slightly moved, so there was hope. There was still life in her. And one gopi said to Srimati Radharani, "Krishna's come, Krishna's come." She opened her eyes. Sri Radha opened her eyes very wide, but she didn't see Krishna. She looked into space and then fell deep into this unconscious condition where there was no symptoms of life. It is described herein that the whole of Vrindavan was really like one united family. This is a wonderful instruction of what a devotee community should strive to be. They were all so centered in pleasing Krishna, and everyone knew how dear everyone else was to Krishna. So how we treat everyone else is inseparable to how we treat Krishna. If Krishna loves this person, if I love Krishna, then I'll love this person, and I'll do everything to make this person happy. And the only thing that makes anyone happy is remembering Krishna. Golokera Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. This is the spirit of the spiritual world, where everyone as a community, as an intimate, loving family, is inspiring each other to love Krishna for Krishna's happiness. And this is actually the inner spirit of Sankirtan, of chanting holy names. I'm sorry, but due to my inefficiencies and lack of devotion, I see some people are sleeping. So let us help to wake them up by loudly, 10 million times louder chanting. Thank you. When Krishna was in one devotee's home, everyone in Vrindavan felt in the innermost recess of their heart, Krishna is in my home. Everyone's home was everyone's home, because everyone's home was a place for Krishna to be happy. When Krishna entered one Brijavasi's home and served Krishna nicely, and he was happy, everyone was feeling, he's in my home. This is my home. We loosely use words without really going deep into the bhava of how words could be understood. There's I, me, mine, and then there's us. There's we. In the spiritual realm of Vrindavan, what does us and we mean? It's not numerical. We see it in terms of a numerical. If there's more than one of us, it's we. In the world of bhakti, there's numbers, but everything has its foundational spirit in love, in devotion, in the will to serve and to please. So a united community, when we say we or we say us, that means we are all together, honoring, respecting, and loving each other for the pleasure of Krishna. What it means to put Krishna in the center of our own life, deaths and births and deaths, of cultivating knowledge and learning so much, and accumulating so many austerities and accumulating so many understanding of scriptures. When one actually begins to understand, we take shelter of Vasudeva. Such a great soul is very rare. Sometimes I divert so far I forgot where I'm coming from. Krishna's in the water, yes. That's what I was trying to say. So all the devotees of Vrindavan, their love for Krishna is the ultimate culmination of the highest realization of the absolute truth, wherein Krishna is so pleased that he manifests such a love and such a beauty to us. National society with millions of people, or the spiritual world where there's limitless people, us. We. It is a spirit that the unity that makes us we is Krishna, is pleasing Krishna and respecting each other in that spirit of pleasing Krishna is who we are. And that was Vrindavan. Still, everyone was most happy when Krishna was in the house of Nanda and Yashoda, because everyone knew Nanda and Yashoda had the capacity to give the fullest, sweetest, most complete love to Krishna. And therefore, he's so happy, and he's so protected, and he's actually seeking shelter of their love. Everyone wanted to be Krishna's wife, Krishna's friend. Everyone wanted to be Krishna's mother, father in their hearts. But there was never envy. There was never an unwholesome competition, because everyone knew that no one could be pleasing Krishna like Nanda and Yashoda. We often cite the example that when we water the root of the tree, then every part of the tree is nourished and satisfied. And that's Vrindavan, where everyone is, because when we understand the root of the tree is the source of nourishment for every leaf, every particle, then every leaf and every flower and every twig recognizes that we're all part of the same tree. It's we. When you water the root of a tree, then it's not that you're just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the whole tree. It's not that the flowers are thinking, if I get that water on the root, I'm going to get the water. If I get that water on the root, the flower is thinking, everyone's going to get the water. And if everyone doesn't get it, I'm not going to get it. That is the way Vrindavan is. So in this state, sing Nanda gone, sing Krishna gone, sing Yashoda Maya lifeless, sing Srimati Radharani lifeless. The entire state of Vrindavan, every living being was practically dying in grief, spiritual grief, vipralamba, love and separation. And they were bewildered. They didn't know what to do. And there was nobody to tell them what to do. Love and devotion and gratitude. He's praying to Krishna that because you have come to my abode and you're entering into my house, the fulfillment of the whole purpose of this body and the very perfection and goal of my life has been achieved. And then he said, I'm very sorry that my foolish messenger arrested your father. These are Varuna's words. That messenger was egoistic because he was so expert at knowing the rituals, the formalities, and the technicalities of Dharma. And because he was so puffed up knowing all those things, he made an aparad to such a great devotee. Varuna prayed, please forgive us. But there is a lesson for all of us in whatever little place we may be in this world that very much is relevant. There may be formalities, there may be traditions, there may be technicalities, according to principles of Dharma, but by knowing them and even following them, if we become proud and it develops false ego, and it causes us to offend a Vaishnav. In Varuna's words, we're just fools. Ata pumbir dvijastrestas varnashrama vigabhagasha shvanushtatasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritosh. The whole purpose of everything that we do with all of our dharmas and all of our rituals and all of our varnas and the rituals and the pujas and everything we do, it's only to please Krishna. In the story of the Yajnik Brahmins, the Brahmins were really expert at all these formalities and rituals and all of the, technicalities of how society should be and everything else. But due to false pride, when the cowherd boys came and asked, Krishna and Balaram are hungry, please give us some food, they understood the essence. It's all for the pleasure of pujas and prayers, and it's incredibly opulent. And all these luxurious people, full of knowledge, full of wisdom, full of wealth, full of beauty, they were all coming one by one and bowing their heads to Gopal, which is this little cowherd boy. Just got up really early in the morning. His mother didn't even have time to dress him the way she usually did. And Nanda Maharaj was utterly... You see, when Lord Brahma came down previously to offer prayers to Krishna and surrender, it was in a secluded place. Nobody was around. And when Indra, after the wonderful Govardhan Leela, Krishna was so kind. First of all, he knew his devotee Indra had too much false ego because of his power and his influence and his wealth and his beauty, and it was disturbing his devotion. And here's Krishna in Gokula Vrindavan on this earth, having the most beautiful, loving leelas with his devotee, but still he's thinking of what's the well-being of his devotee, perhaps millions of miles away in Swargaloka. And after Krishna completely humiliated Indra into taking shelter by his own sweet will, Krishna one day, just a few days before this story of Varuna, after he put down the mountain, few days later, he left all his friends and cows to be in a secluded place. And the only other person who saw Indra surrendering to Krishna was Surabhi, the cow. But now Nanda Maharaj, he's seeing the most opulent, powerful demigod of the oceans, Varuna, is surrendering to Krishna as the supreme god. Then Varuna said to Krishna, "This entire kingdom belongs to you, my Lord. I offer everything to you." Krishna responded, "I only want my father." After Varuna, after worshiping Krishna more and more, he said, "Now, please take your father." And he kept asking Krishna, "Please give me your mercy, please give your mercy." And Nanda Maharaj is watching Varuna begging for Gopal's mercy. Gopal took Nanda Maharaj by the hand and said, "Please come." And he pulled him. And then they left the palace and they left Varuna's abode and they started traveling. Krishna was pulling Nanda Maharaj through water. And actually, according to the Gopala Champu, there were all kinds of pathways under the water. And Krishna was taking all these passageways and secret caves. And ultimately, they reached Vrindavan. Now they're still underwater. They're just now coming. And on top of the water, the Brajavasis, Yashoda Mai, Shrimati Radharani, Sudama, Sridama, Subal, all the Gopas, Lalita, Vishaka, they're all literally grieved, helplessly, hopelessly, dying in separation. All they could do was cry, and all they could do was remember Krishna, totally absorbed in crying out for Krishna. Suddenly, Krishna, along with Nanda Maharaj, sprung up from the water of the Yamuna and jumped upon the bank. And when all the residents of Vrindavan saw this, they leaped to the air and chanted and cried in joy. They literally erupted in transcendental loving ecstasy. One moment before, they were crying in transcendental ecstasy of agony. And now they're crying in the ecstasy of happiness. Supreme happiness. Krishna's back. Nanda Maharaj is back. As soon as he came back, everyone was upon his darshan. They were completely revived. The gopis, they were dancing. They were singing. And Srimati Radharani, her eyes gazing upon the beautiful form of Govinda, beaming with the most ecstatic, loving smile. She drowned Krishna with her. No ocean could drown Krishna. But the loving smile of his beloved devotee could drown him. And in this way, there was such a beautiful festival on that morning on the bank of the Yamuna. Singing, dancing, jumping, chanting, celebrating. Krishna's back. Yashoda Mai was ecstatic to see the one family of Vrindavan sharing the same joy of Krishna. One day, Soon after this, some of the cowherd men, they inquired from Nanda Maharaj, please tell us what happened when you were underwater for all that time. Nobody knew. Nanda Maharaj began to explain, because they're living as simple Brijabasis. He was explaining the luxuries and the opulence of the heavenly world of Varuna. He was describing in detail the palace and the thrones and the furnishings and the dresses and the jewelries that everyone was wearing. And he said, and in that supreme heavenly abode, the most luxurious of all the heavens, Varuna, the demigod, and all of the citizens, they were continuously bowing down and surrendering to Gopal. They were begging for Gopal's mercy. They were calling Gopal Bhagavan. They were calling Gopal the all-knowing Paramatma. He was very, very much graphically describing. The cowherd men, they asked Nanda Maharaj, this is inconceivable. This is wondrous. Garga Muni, he did say that Krishna would be like Narayan. But now after hearing what you're saying, Nanda Maharaj, we think there were some things that Garga Muni didn't tell us. And at that moment, the cowherd men contemplated, will the Lord bestow upon us the spiritual world? They were wondering what their destination would be after this lifetime. In their hearts, they didn't say anything, but Krishna understood their minds. So he brought that group of cowherd men to a place called Brahmahrada on another bank of Mother Yamuna. And he instructed them to take their baths. So the cowherd men, the Brahmahrada is actually a lake just next to and connected to the Yamuna. They dunked themselves under the water, and when they came up from underwater, they all saw the spiritual sky. They saw a brilliant, effulgent, all-pervading, beautiful light. They were witnessing with their own eyes the Brahmajyoti, the ultimate goal and ultimate destination of impersonal yogis and impersonal philosophers. It was the complete, total state of the place of liberation. They were seeing this spiritual sky, such a light. And they were thinking in their hearts that we don't like this liberation because in this light we can't embrace Krishna. We can't see Krishna. We can't make Krishna happy here. We don't want this liberation. And as they were thinking like that, Krishna revealed to them within that all-pervading spiritual light of Brahman, the Vaikuntha planets, the abodes of the supreme, all-knowing, all-opulent Lord, Narayan, in various features. And these simple cowherd men are looking on and wonder. This was not just a vision. This was a darshan. Krishna was showing. And then they saw the highest of all the planets of Vaikuntha, Goloka. In Goloka, the sweetness of the absolute truth as Krishna was far above and beyond even the glories of Vaikuntha. And they saw Krishna's a cowherd boy, just like in our own village. And he's playing his flute, just like in our own village. And look, in this Goloka of the highest realm of Vaikuntha in the spiritual world, there's forest filled with tulsi bushes and kadamba trees, tamal trees, bakula trees. And they're seeing the abode of Goloka. There's Govardhan Hill, and there's the river Yamuna, and there's our cows, so many cows. And Krishna's friends, they're there with cows. And we see all around, there's gopas and there's gopis performing their duties and playing together. This supreme abode of the spiritual world seems to be just like where we live. Goloka seems to be the same as Gokula. They were looking on in inconceivable wonder. Everything that's here is there. Then they saw these glorious, celestial, saintly people called the personified Vedas offering prayers to Krishna. And they were astonished. They were just incredibly filled with wonder to see. But then they felt uncomfortable. They were thinking, with such great sages like the personified Vedas, such exalted, worshipable personalities offering prayers to Krishna, Krishna's not going to jump in our arms and sit on our laps and let us embrace him. Krishna's not going to be hungry when he's getting all these worship and prayers by such exalted people. And if he's not hungry, then what will be Yashoda Mai's condition of heart? Knowing that Krishna's hungry, knowing the need to feed Krishna is her very motherly identity with Krishna. This Goloka's a glorious abode. It's so much like our home, but we like it here in Gokula better, because here there is no impediment to Krishna freely interacting with pure, intimate, loving pastimes with all of us. This was their spirit. We like Gokula better because they were not concerned with God being God. They were concerned with giving the highest love and pleasure to Krishna in the intimacy of Vrindavan. It is explained in this connection, the simplicity of the cowherd men. They didn't consider themselves great. They did not consider themselves special. They just loved Krishna. That was their simplicity. And the unity and the beauty and the sweetness of Vrindavan is permeated with that simplicity. Nobody cared positions. Nobody thought, I'm so special or I'm very great. They just loved Krishna. They just wanted to please Krishna. This is Vrindavan. Sukadev Goswami concludes this narration by saying that just by hearing with a faithful, sincere heart and chanting these beautiful glories of Krishna's pastimes, then this spirit of love for Krishna gradually awakens within our hearts. That in the Vrindavan Leela, as this bhakti, this love for Krishna awakens in our hearts, then we have no attraction for liberation. We have no attraction even to live in the abode of the Lord. We're just happy to serve and love Krishna. Krishna incarnated in this world in the mood of Sri Radha as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and brought many of these same devotees of Vrindavan with him for his leelas, and displayed this same principle. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, Nadanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatad bhaktira hoite ki tvai. I do not want wealth. I do not want fame or power or followers. I don't want to be known as a great scholar. I don't want liberation from suffering. I only want to serve you birth after birth after birth. Lord Chaitanya prayed for that, and he taught that that's the standard that devotees should strive for, pray for, even cry for. But then he demonstrated it, not only in his own life, but through his devotees. In Sri Navadvip Dham, where Srila Prabhupada made Navadvip his world headquarters to attract people to understand Lord Chaitanya is teaching what Vrindavan is through the interactions of his devotees. He personally lived in the role of a devotee, and his eternal associates from Goloka were living in the role of devotees to teach us. In the house of Srivas, there was the Mahaprakash, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so much trying to teach us by his example and his words and through his devotees what we should follow to please Krishna and become Krishna conscious. Some devotees knew he was God, but if they called him God, if they called him Vishnu, He would hold his ears with his hands and cry out, Vishnu, Vishnu, don't say these things. I'm just the servant of the Lord. I'm just the servant of the Lord. And Lord Chaitanya was very fond of serving the devotees. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat tells sometimes when they would be washing their clothes in the Ganga, Lord Nimai, or at this time he was Gauranga, he had established the Sankirtan movement. He would go to his devotees and take their clothes and wash it for them. Sometimes they'd be carrying things back from the Ganga to their homes, and Gauranga would come and pick it up and say, let me carry it for you. He was so fond of serving his devotees. Not only because that's his bhava, that's his love, that's his example. But during the Mahaprakash, on this day, Lord Chaitanya was revealing himself as the Supreme Lord, just according to each devotee's personal loving relationship with him. He was calling devotees one by one, and then sitting on the altar of Srivas Thakur's home, he called Murari Gupta, who's Hanuman in his eternal Leela. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Hanuman, just see. And Hanuman looked up, and he saw, instead of Lord Chaitanya, it was Lord Ram with Lakshman and with Sita. He was astonished. And Lord Chaitanya said, oh monkey, don't you remember? Don't you remember me? He said, here is Lakshman, how you fought to protect him. And here is Sita. You cried a shoreless ocean of tears seeing her condition when you went to that Ashokvan in Sri Lanka. I am Ram. And Hanuman looked down. Murari Gupta, there was no mirrors. He just happened to look down and saw that he had a tail. And Lord Chaitanya said, you are Hanuman. And he fulfilled his innermost desires. And he asked him, any benediction in all the worlds, I'll give you everything. Murari Gupta, the only thing he asked for, in whatever birth I may take, even if it's an insect, let me be near the home of your devotee so I can hear your glories and get their prasad. Let me always be among your devotees in any situation so that I could hear your glories and chant your holy name. He called Srila Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur came forward, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed his opulences as Krishna to Haridas. And when asked for a benediction, that's all Haridas wanted. Lord Chaitanya was praising Haridas. It was at that time, Lord Chaitanya was saying, when you were being beaten because you were chanting the holy name so sincerely, when you were being beaten, you didn't call out to me to save you. You were calling out to me to forgive the people trying to kill you. That's inconceivable. And because no one could live through the way they were beating you, I personally descended and invisibly covered your body with my body. Just see. And he revealed, Lord Chaitanya, on his beautiful golden form, were all the brutal beating marks that were meant for Haridas. Haridas fainted. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Haridas, I am a prisoner in your heart. One devotee like Haridas Thakur is more valuable to me than everything and everyone in the entire universe. That's how Krishna perceives his devotees. And interestingly, everywhere Haridas went, except when he was with the pure associates of Lord Chaitanya, he was practically always misunderstood. But because he was so absorbed in lovingly chanting the holy names, understood or misunderstood, he just kept trying to give everyone Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. Ask any benediction. Thakur Haridas prayed, let me be an insect near your home, near your devotee, in any birth. He didn't want liberation. He didn't ask for to being in the Lord's abode. In any birth I take, let me be near your devotee, so that when they throw out the plates of their remnants, I can eat from the plate that your devotee ate from. That's how much he valued the association. And this is not fancy poetry. This is the prayer he's asking for when the Supreme Absolute Truth is offering you anything. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving, whoever even remembers you, Haridas, with faith, I will give them love for Krishna. And we cultivate Sridhar. He was a very poverty-stricken person, living with, below any standards of comforts in life. Lord Chaitanya revealed him the beautiful form of Krishna in Vrindavan, along with Balaram, and asked Sridhar, what do you ask for? Anything, anything. Sridhar said, I don't want anything. Just seeing you, I'm happy. He said, well, ask anything. Ask. And Sridhar said, I'm happy just seeing you. I'm happy, my Lord. I don't want anything. Lord Chaitanya said, well, you'll make me happy if you ask for something. He said, I only want to always remember you and never forget you with love. That's all. In my heart, in my mind, in every life I take, let that little boy Nimai always be coming to steal my bananas. Let this always be in my heart. He didn't ask for the spiritual abode. He didn't ask for liberation. This is the spirit of the Brajavasis. This is the spirit of the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And here in Vrindavan, we were speaking about Sanatan Goswami living at Pavan Sarovar. Do you remember that? Where he was just living not even under a tree, he was just living on the bank in a very secluded, dangerous forest near Pavan Sarovar. And Krishna came and pleaded with him, let us build a bhajan kutir for you. And Krishna arranged the Brajavasis to build it. And in our scriptures, there's beautiful stories of what happened in that bhajan kutir. In the scripture, Bhakti Ratnakar by Narahari Chakravarti, he describes a story many of us has heard. In Nandagaon, not far from Pavan Sarovar, where Sanatan Goswami's bhajan kutir was, Srila Rupa Goswami built a bhajan kutir. The place is Terakadamba, which has such a beautiful history of Krishna's pastimes. It's just in the outskirts of Nandagram. Krishna would meet Srimati Radharani and gopis there. He would play with his cowherd boyfriends there. And every night when the sun was setting and Krishna had his 900,000 plus cows he was herding, he would climb the Terkadamba tree to call all the cows to come back home into Nandagram. And when he would call a name, every cow would hear her own name. Sometimes Krishna would play his flute, and every cow would, that's my favorite song. It wasn't they were just hearing something. Krishna was personally playing for every cow. Now, if I tell a story, some people like, some people don't. It's the same story, though. But Krishna, he could speak, and he will tell everybody their favorite story while he's sitting at the same time. And everyone is a different one. That is Rasa Vihari, Raso by Saha. He's the emperor, the connoisseur of the sweetest, fullest, most complete, loving reciprocation. So Krishna would climb the Terakadamba tree and play his flute and call the names of cows, and they would all respond in great ecstasy and come running to be with Krishna. And they'd all come to the Terakadamba tree to meet Krishna, and Krishna would count every cow. He wouldn't go back into Nandagram until every single cow he met personally. And if out of the 900,000, if one didn't come, Krishna would get down from Terkadamba and start searching the pastures and the forest looking for that cow. So personal. That's Krishna. And it was there under the Terakadamba tree that Srila Rupa Goswami would write so many of his literatures. One of his very celebrated worship bhajan kutirs, where he did his bhajan, where he was completely immersed, Krishna Kirtana, with chanting the holy names and meditating upon Radharani and Krishna and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One day at Terkadamba, Sri Rupa Goswami was thinking, something in his heart awakened. He wanted to cook special paramana. Paramana is the sadhu's way of saying kheer, which in the West we call sweet rice. He wanted to make a special sweet rice kheer for Sanatana Goswami. Because Sanatana Goswami, he considered his guru and his elder brother. But they were just doing madhukari. They were just getting some, Sanatana Goswami would get some wheat, and he would some really coarsely ground wheat from the house of a Brijavasi he'd beg from. And sometimes he'd mix it with some water from Yamuna or Pavan Sarovar, make a ball and put it in fire. Sometimes he would get a roti or some chickpeas. Now, for you and me today, I think you had this fruit custard or something. Did all of you get that? Purijan Prabhu, Hare Krishna, thank you so very much for blessing us. Could you imagine here in these kitchens? This kitchen was just an this whole site where we're sitting. In fact, one night we want to introduce the wonderful Brijbasi, who's the owner of this land. And he actually allowed us to use this land. It's just an agricultural field. And it happens to be between crops. He allowed this whole pandal to be set up in his field. I think it grows like wheat or something like that. The kitchen, the children's playground, the parking for all the buses. I think there's like 175 buses or something. And he's letting us use all of them. After we leave, he'll just plant seeds and the fields will grow. But anyways, there in that remote kitchen, I went this morning, and they had these gigantic pots floating in massive chunks of ice. And inside was this fruit custard the efforts that these devotees, mostly brahmacharis, Damodar, Purushottam, Gauranga Prabhu, all these people, they make some Radha Ballabh Prabhu, they're not just cooking. They're really trying to make everyone happy. I'll get a list of more names, because I'm forgetting some of the most surrendered, wonderful devotees who are preparing. But every morning, there's about 100 ladies rolling chapatis. And for the whole yatra, the same ladies, every day, they come at 4:30 in the morning and begin rolling and cooking chapatis. And they continue cooking. And they're wood stove, not even stoves, they're just little wooden things on the ground. And so much, a lot of smoke. And there's nobody sitting on chairs. They're just sitting in the dirt, little teams of circles around each stove, where some are rolling and some are putting it on the stove. And then they have somebody who counts them and stacks them. Over 100 ladies. They roll and cook chapatis every day from 4:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. And they don't look tired. They're just so grateful. They actually, all year, they look forward to coming to the yatra. While everybody else is out going to holy places and having kirtans and dancing and feasting and seeing all the holy sights, they're just, chanting Hare Krishna and rolling chapatis and cooking chapatis and stacking chapatis. And every day, for all of us, they make 20,000 chapatis. Now, they could just the kitchen could just make some huge pots of khichdi. But today I saw the prasad, I'm not good at counting, as everyone knows, when it comes to numbers. I counted at least 8 or 9 preparations today. There's they said Nityananda rice or something. And there are so many ingredients in that, and so many different aspects and features. It takes hours and hours and hours. And sabjis, I think yesterday there was gulab jamans for everyone. So it's not just feeding you. The kitchen is not there to feed you. The kitchen is there to really strive to make you happy. So that every aspect of your pilgrimage here to Vrindavan, or all yatras to the holy places, every aspect will be unforgettable experience of spiritual happiness. And if you look at the sound systems, all these speakers, they plan all year. And putting up this pandal a few days before, and then the day after you leave, it's all going to be dismantled. And it'll just be an agricultural field again. It's to give us happiness. So let's get back to where I started. The fruit custard floating in ice. Amazing. Because I don't know how long it takes to make it or what the ingredients then are, but it's quite elaborate. You know, all these fruits and these nuts and these dried fruits and this custard. I don't know what custard is actually, but you know, but they want it to be ice cold because it tastes better for you that way. So somewhere, I don't know where, but they got these huge blocks of ice, and all night long they cook it late last night, and all overnight and the whole next day it's just floating in ice blocks. So that is the beautiful spirit of service of these devotees, and something that's a detail. But every cook and all these chapati makers and all the people who are cooking on those big pots, Bamsidhar Prabhu, he invented these hydraulic systems and a railway system to carry these massive pots from one place to another and lift them. And it's real simple. It's total village technology. He so proudly gave me this box. And I looked at it. It looked like a really primitive box. And it had buttons on it. And he told me to press one, and I pressed it. And suddenly this pot goes, maybe 80, huge pot. It's like a swimming pool. And you could lift it and move it anywhere you want by pressing buttons. And there's no computers. It's all just real simple, chains. So Rupa Goswami wanted to make kheer, but he did not have any facility. Where's he going to get it? But he had this desire. He wanted to make special paramana for the pleasure of Sanatan Goswami, who's just living close by at Pavan Sarovar. And as he was just thinking this way, a very charming village girl came to his bhajan kutir and said, "Oh, Rupa, my mother sent these ingredients to you so that you can cook." And she brought him milk, rice. Now, Vrindavan, it's hard to get rice. Goswamis in those days, and camphor and whatever, and sweetener. And she gave him all, and then the little girl left. Said, "My mother sent me with these ingredients for you, Goswamiji." And she disappeared. And Rupa Goswami cooked it with his own loving hands for the pleasure of Sanatan Goswami. And he came back to Pavan Sarovar, to the bhajan kutir of Sanatan Goswami, and said, "I have made this for you." The aroma was so nectarine. The whole bhajan kutir, the whole forest area was just permeated with this sweet fragrance. And as soon as and it was all offered to Radharani and Krishna. He said it was Mahaprasad. He gave it to Sanatan Goswami. As soon as Sanatan Goswami got his first taste of it, his whole body, mind, heart, and soul erupted in ecstatic love. There were symptoms of ananda. His hairs were standing on end. Tears were coming from his eyes, pouring. His limbs were trembling, and it just didn't taste like nectar. It tasted like Krishna Prema, because that's what it was. Beyond Krishna Prema, it was Radha Prema. He drank it, and he had never tasted anything like this. And he asked Rupa Goswami, "Where did you get this? Goswamis don't have kheer." And Rupa Goswami said, "I just had a desire to make this, and this little girl came and gave me the ingredients." This fascinated Srila Sanatan Goswami. "Tell me about this little girl." And he described her. Sanatan Goswami, he knew with all certainty that little girl was his supreme, worshipable, ultimate deity of his life, Srimati Radharani. He said to Rupa Goswami, "You should not have done this. You have accepted service from our most worshipable Sri Radha. Our whole goal of life, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they gave up wealth, they gave up fame, they gave up honor, they gave up comforts and luxuries, they gave up families, they gave up everything to give pleasure to Radha and Krishna and the devotees, not expecting anything in return. We have given our whole lives to serve Sri Radha and assist her in her service to Sri Krishna. And Rupa, you have accepted service from her, and you've implicated me also. Sanatana Goswami said to Rupa Goswami, be very careful. Never, ever serve in such a way to make an endeavor where Sri Radharani is going to come to serve you or us. And Rupa Goswami was actually very ashamed. But even though he was ashamed, and Sanatana Goswami was ashamed, the two of them could not stop drinking that paramana. So after they ecstatically finished all the paramana, Rupa Goswami went back to Tirkadamba. And that night, he was feeling ashamed. Can you imagine? Srimati Radharani personally comes and gives you this wonderful divine ingredients, and then you taste the nectar of her love. Can you imagine after all that being ashamed? But Rupa and Sanatana, that was their consciousness. Rupa Goswami was feeling, I have displeased Sanatana Goswami, and I have because I've taken service from Sri Radha, where I should be assisting her in serving Krishna. And that night, according to Bhakti Ratnakar, that night, Srimati Radharani returned to him in a dream and consoled him. She said, actually, I'm very happy. And then she revealed that same thing to Sanatana Goswami. And after Sanatana Goswami, it was revealed, he began to describe the glories of Rupa Goswami's love all over Vrindavan. But the principle of why this story is given to us, not only to describe the glories of Vrindavan, but this was the mood of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam vajakadisha kame. They wanted nothing in return for their service. They just wanted to serve Krishna, to love Krishna, to please Krishna. To love Krishna, to please Krishna by loving and pleasing his devotees. That is the principle of this beautiful story. And that is the spirit of Vrindavan. And we cannot imitate. Most of us are very far away from this. We have so many mental demands and emotional demands and bodily demands and expectations and frustrations and lack of what we want or need in our life. And the material world is full of many injustices. And devotees, we shouldn't be saying to other devotees when they're having difficulties, you should be transcendental. You should follow in footsteps of Goswamis and not worry about all these things. Lord Chaitanya was not that way with devotees. He was very kind and loving. And all of our acharyas and Srila Prabhupada was very loving and caring for even the slightest needs of devotees. He wanted everyone to be as happy as possible serving Krishna. But still, in our own hearts, this is the standard we're praying for and striving for. If we don't have that standard, if that's not on the compass of our destination, we'll never move in that way. We will never move toward Vrindavan internally unless we establish this unmotivated, unconditional loving service, as is demonstrated in all these stories of Vrindavan and Mahaprabhu's Leelas and Goswami's Leelas and Acharya's Leelas. And we should care for each other in such a way that devotees could have faith in this goal of unmotivated, unconditional devotional service. And we could strive to help each other to be happy, striving for this goal. And this is why we have come for this yatra in Vrindavan. Thank you very much.